Andrew Bridgen reveals startling off-camera comments from BBC chief Tim Davie. You're not going to believe what just came out. This isn't some headline fluff or Twitter rumor, this is a moment that's making even seasoned political insiders stop and say, "Did he really say that?" While most of the country was tuned into campaign ads, protest footage, and the latest polls, something far more revealing was happening behind closed doors. And now it's out in the open. Andrew Bridgen, former Conservative MP and now one of the most vocal independent critics of the political media establishment, has just shared details of an off-camera exchange that he says changes everything we think we know about BBC impartiality. And the name at the center of this controversy? Tim Davie, Director General of the BBC. According to Bridgen, during a recent off-the-record interaction at a media function, Davie allegedly made remarks that raised serious eyebrows not just about the BBC's coverage choices, but about how those choices are made and why. No, there was no official statement. No press conference. But what Bridgen claims he heard has sent shockwaves across the political landscape. I've been in this game long enough to tell when something is said offhand and when something reveals a much bigger truth, Bridgen told a local outlet. He didn't quote Davie directly, likely for legal and ethical reasons, but he did say the conversation suggested that editorial calls at the BBC are influenced by much more than just journalistic integrity. That's a big claim. And it's got people talking. To be clear, the BBC hasn't responded to Bridgen's comments. Not yet. But the public reaction has been explosive. Social media lit up almost immediately. If what Bridgen is hinting at is even partly true, one user wrote, then how can we trust the BBC during this election cycle? Another asked, what else gets said behind closed doors that we never hear about? Political commentator Julia Hartley-Brewer didn't mince words either, tweeting, "It's about time people asked who's pulling the strings in our national broadcaster. Tim Davie's silence won't make this go away." And that's the real story here. Not just what might have been said, but what it represents. Because this isn't the first time the BBC has been accused rightly or wrongly of editorial bias. From its handling of Brexit debates, to the coverage of COVID restrictions, to the recent media blackouts on controversial figures, critics from across the spectrum have raised concerns about how the BBC balances its role as a public service broadcaster with the pressures of modern politics. And now, Bridgen's comments have cracked open another layer. He's urging the public to look closer not just at what's being said on camera, but at what isn't. Let's not forget, Tim Davie hasn't exactly shied away from difficult conversations in the past. He's openly acknowledged challenges in maintaining impartiality. But Bridgen's warning suggests the gap between what's admitted and what's really happening may be far wider than most people think. And what's most troubling to many observers is timing. We're in a pre-election period. Tensions are high. Narratives are being shaped right now not just by politicians, but by the very people who control which stories rise to the top, and which quietly disappear. So when someone like Bridgen, who's made a career out of calling out power, steps forward and says, "You won't believe what I just heard," it's not just a political moment. It's a media credibility crisis. A former BBC journalist, speaking anonymously to a smaller political blog, said, "There's always been editorial influence from the top. The difference now is people are finally listening." And that's not all. An ex-Labour aide told The Spectator, "The real issue isn't left or right. It's that the public are starting to realize how much of what they see is carefully curated. It's the illusion of choice, not actual transparency." So what now? Will Tim Davie respond? Will the BBC issue a statement, or will they try to ride this out in silence? Because, let's be real, the stakes are bigger than one offhand remark. Bigger than Andrew Bridgen. Bigger than even this election cycle. This is about trust. Do people still believe the BBC represents them? Or do they see it as just another polished machine protecting the status quo? Here's the bottom line. Bridgen's comments have lit a fire, and whether or not there's more audio, video, or documentation to follow, this moment is already reshaping the conversation. Because if there's even a grain of truth in what he's hinting at, then we have to ask, what other quiet conversations are guiding the headlines we see every night? And more importantly, who decides what doesn't make the news? Stay tuned for more, because the truth is rarely loud. It's whispered, in rooms where cameras aren't rolling. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is the BBC still serving the public or just serving power? Like, share, and subscribe. Because you deserve the full picture, not just the polished one.